Welcome to BWG Homes first quarter presentation for 2014. Together with me today I have the CFO Arnt Eriksen, who will take part in the presentation that we are going to hold now. So about the highlights for the Q1. As we saw in 2013, the market in Norway was a little bit weaker, and that continued into January and February also in 2014, this first quarter. What we see at the moment is that the sale in April is definitely much better. We are back and even ahead of April last year. So right now the situation also in Norway is better. But anyhow, the first quarter was slow due to low sale, and it affected also the revenues. What we actually did in Norway was also to sell some of the land bank. We have said that we will look for projects that will be okay for us to sell, and we are also looking for partners to take part in some of our projects. The project that we did in first quarter was Ulsetstemma, and Veidekke bought 50% of this project. So we are looking forward to cooperate with them. When it comes to Sweden, we see that the revenues have increased, and also the sale. So the market situation in Sweden is very good. But for the first quarter, we see some lower margin, and that's actually due to that we have some construction work going on to adjust our production. But I will come back to that during the presentation of the segments later on. And when it comes to Tjernhem, yeah, we are really satisfied with the development for the Tjernhem. They are making a very good quarter, and that just in line with what we hoped when we bought it in April last year. When it comes to the market conditions, we can see that in Norway it was slower in 2013, down to 25,000 units when it comes to starts up. And so far in 2014 it has been a little bit down, but at the moment it has started to look better. And when it comes to us, we have reduced our production capacity, but and we will still going forward at a fairly low level, and but hopefully the market will be better, and then we will start to raise our production capacity, but that will be more into 2015. When it comes to Sweden, it's definitely still a positive development, and for both Norway and Sweden, the underlying demand for homes, it's there definitely. So the future is a kind of bright, both in Sweden especially, but also in Norway at the moment. And then over to the financials, and Eriksen.
Thank you. So I will take you through the numbers. We can start with observing that we have very high revenues. It's an increase of 5%, so we have revenues of 986 million for the quarter. You will see later that this is a very high level for the group. Of course, what drives this is some changes in the business also. Tjernhem came in, and they are part of this. The EBITDA for the quarter ended at 105 million NOK. It's a reduction of 15% compared to the first quarter of 2013. 2013 was the best quarter ever, so we should keep that in mind. We have noted in the reports that in this EBITDA of 105 million is also included a gain on this sales of part of a project in Norway. So we could keep that in mind. Cash flow in the period slightly improved from a year ago level, but still negative at 190 million. Of course, we will come back to that later in the presentation. New orders increase of almost 6%. Again, you will see differences between the different regions. Tjernhem is in this year. Sweden has, or BWG Homes AB, the other part of the Swedish business, have had good sales, but there has been a reduction, of course, in Norway. Order backlog at a high level, 1.8 billion NOK. We will see that later also, that the increase here is in Sweden. And in Sweden, we are very dependent on having an order backlog to be able to plan for production going forward. So this is a positive development for us. Number of employees, not much changed from the year end. We have some figures on production volumes in the report. We have taken some of them up here. The number of units in production is more or less in line with what we had at year end. But it's an increase then of some 50 units from the year ago level. Kjernem explains this. There is a substantial reduction in the Norwegian figures, which we'll come back to. You should also notice we have had some focus on this for a period. The number of unsold completed units, as a finished house, we still have for sale, slightly down from year end, but still at a high level. So then we have some graphs here illustrating how this quarter stands compared to previous years. And basically it shows that revenues are very high for the quarter, and the EBITDA or EBIT results are very high, though not at the level we saw in 2013. New orders coming in, historical high for the first quarter this year. Order backlog also on a very high level now. Cash flow, of course, some interest on this item. Basically, the figure shows a slight improvement. We have stated in many occasions that the first quarter is not a particularly good quarter cash flow-wise, and that's, of course, confirmed again here, though there are some signs of improvement. There are more details in the report, but basically we can mention two things. The inventories or the work in progress has increased with 124 million in the balance sheet, or 125. This is an increase partly in Sweden and partly in Norway. Not unexpected, but we want to see, and we will see, that this is coming down during the year. There are also some details on land acquisitions in the report. We have made some cash payments for land acquisitions of excess of 100 million NOK in the quarter. There's also a reduction from the year ago level in Norway. If you look to Sweden, we have some quite large land acquisitions where we have made payments now in the first quarter. Yeah, we have also mentioned here that we have got some payments from some of these associated companies, which amount to 32 million, which is part of the picture. So all in all, cash flow from operations negative at 190 million. Cash flow from investment positive because these payments from affiliates. And of course, the net cash flow from financing is basically increased drawings on project financing. And then we have used much of the cash we had in the balance sheet at year end. We had too much at year end. And we have said that this will be sort of put into work in the first quarter, and that's the case. Net interest-bearing debt, also an important figure for many. Again, an increase of 160 million from year end. The driver is, of course, what we have already spoken about, the cash flow development. So now we have a clear ambition that this will start falling. We will come back to that when we talk about the operations, particularly in Norway. But this is at a level where we want to see a clear reduction. Yeah, I should also mention that we have a move here of this first bond issue that is now within a year of maturity, and it's been reclassified here. That explains why the short-term interest-bearing debt is increasing while the long-term is reducing. So that's basically a reclassification. Then we have the balance sheet for the consolidated balance sheet. not too much items to talk about. You see that the cash or the bank deposits has been reduced intentionally. With the level of debt we have now, it's much more efficient for us to utilize the cash to keep the level or to pay back loans where that's feasible. So we have done that. Can just mention also this amount of total provision. There's a substantial reduction from year end. Has to do with the fact that we sold off this project in Norway, mainly. Still, equity ratio excess of 42%. We also have this IRS Income Statement. It's basically the consolidated figures for the group. You will find more details in the report. Again, it shows more or less the same story. Good quarter volume-wise, 992 million of revenues, EBITDA of 89 million. It's an increase of 26% from the year ago. Could notice that the EBT for the period, the results before tax, is down, and that has to do with substantial currency gains in last year's reporting. We should also, or we would like to inform about the dividend policy. Of course, for 2013, there was communicated a dividend proposal of 25 øre per share. But that raised some questions about what is the intentions going forward. And the board has decided to sort of inform about this now, even though it's very early for 2014. But the board is clear that they aim for a dividend of 50 øre per share for the 2014 accounting year. Just to make that clear. As you will see here, the board is clear that they want to maintain or to continue paying dividends, but basically this clarifies the position for 2014. That was the financials. So then Ole will take you further on the operations.
Thank you, Arnt. Okay, let's start in Sweden. When the first quarter in the BWG Homes AB, it was very good when it comes to sale and also revenues. But as we can see, the EBITDA margin was a little bit down, and that is mainly due to that we actually increased the sale by 27% from year start until today. And so we saw that early, that the order was starting to come in a larger amount than we had for last year. And we have increased the sales force and also the people who are working back office. And also when it comes to manufacturing and so on. So actually that affects the margin, but we believe going forward, when we are going to produce these new orders, we will start to gain also when it comes to the margin. And this first quarter also, for the first time, we have reported 95 million in sales, and that's due to the BRF product. And for those of you who have been following us for a while, you will recognize that we started to sell these BRF units and this project in the second half of 2013. So we are actually really happy to inform you that this quarter we have booked 95 million in order. And going forward, we will also see revenues from those orders in the second quarter. And we believe that this order, it's very standardized products, and we know that the margin is good. So this new part of us have been a success so far. When it comes to the factories and the margin, we have been actually immediately in the Smålandsvillan factory in Vrigstad. We have now started a new production line called Start Living, and these Start Living units, that's the units that are going to be built in these BRF projects. And to be able to produce those products, we have to do several construction works in Vrigstad, and of course to have a production going on along with construction works and establishing a new production line, that's not efficient. So that's also a reason for why the margin is a little bit down this first quarter. We are also pleased to announce that actually this week on Monday our new CEO started, Joachim Henriksson, and we're looking forward to see him entering. And so far we recognize that he's well taken care of in our company in Sweden. So focus going forward will be definitely to increase these co-ops projects and also still do the same thing that we did last year, increase the sales also when it comes to single houses, detached houses and row houses for the families. And of course we also have to have focus on optimizing the production. I believe that will be, since the orders are coming in, I believe that's going to work out very well. So when it comes to the figures, operating revenues up to 363 million from 286, and the margin down to 14 million. I've commented on that. Order intake 479 compared with 348 last year, and the order backlog is up to 1,166 million, 27% up from last year. So this is working out very good. Number of employees 422 up from 368, plus 14.7%. And then Kjærnem. As I said, this company is the result for the first quarter is very good. I don't think we will see this for every quarter going forward, and that's mainly due to that they have not so many projects, but those projects that they have, they are large. And since the revenues mainly occur together with the start and in the beginning of the project, the result in the separate quarter will depend on how many projects we are starting. So in a 12-month period, I'm sure that Kjærnem will deliver good results, but it will vary going forward from quarter to quarter. But at the moment, we are very satisfied with the way the company developed since we bought it in April 2013. We are impressed with the results. And they have also very many nice projects that are going to be launched the next 12 to 24 months. When it comes to situation in the market in Sweden, as Prognoscenter have reported, the situation for 2013 was up to 30,000 house starts for that year, and going forward it's still going to be at that level. And we know that the demand in Sweden is approximately 40,000, so we are still at a level with housing starts below what we believe is the demand in Sweden. And as you can see, when it comes to detached houses, this development is stable and it's positive, but of course the rise in housing starts are mainly due to multifamily houses, and we are entering into that market both with Kjærnem, and we also believe that some of the projects in the BWG Homes AB will also be in that part of the market. And then it's Norway. As we said, the result in Norway is down from the quarter in 2013, and this is mainly due to a drop in the revenues. If we have mentioned this Veidekke deal, and the Veidekke deal, when it comes to the figures, affect the result at the EBITDA margin by 30 million, as well as the operating revenues. And if we take out that order and take out that result, we will then have a difference between what we have in revenues this quarter compared with last quarter in 2013, with approximately 166 million. And the drop in the EBITDA are mainly due to that drop. That alone are going to be something 50 million. So that's the reason for why the results in Norway are like this. So going forward, we saw that the situation in the market was a little bit weaker in the second half of 2013. So in November, we laid off approximately 15% of the employees. But of course, they are not out of the production sites before, I believe that during the first period, approximately. But we did also another adjustment in February this year. So all of all, I believe that the first and second half of 2014, we will see the full effect of this reduction. But definitely it affects the first quarter result. Going forward, definitely we will have focus on the tied-up capital. We will reduce it, and we will reduce it mainly during selling the finished units. I believe that, I think it was in the middle of February, we had about 113 units. And at the end of April, it was 89 units that was completed, but not sold. So we are in a situation at the moment where we reduce this amount, and we will reduce it down to 30 to 40 units. And the other thing we will do is, of course, we will also reduce some of the land bank, and then the tied-up capital will come down also due to this. So that's what we are going to have focus on going forward. When it comes to the figures, I mentioned that. Commented on the revenues and the EBITDA. And the order intake, 552 million, a little bit down from last year. As I mentioned, April this year, we sold more than April last year. So far, it seems like Norway is more or less back on track. But we will not adjust our production capacity up again. We will still produce at a low level until we see the tied-up capital have been coming down to a substantial level, a substantial amount. Number of employees, number of units in production, 895 compared with 1,016 last year. And the number of employees is 570 compared with 647. As we see, down 12%, and this will come down even more going forward the next quarter. When it comes to Hetlandhus, this product we have decided to do some changes. We have, during the period, we have delivered approximately somewhat 200 houses during the last 3-4 years. But what we can see is that the product is very good. The customer like it, but the cost to produce it in Norway, we think it's a little bit high at the moment. And it's mainly due to the transportation cost from the factories until the building site, and also the cost to produce it, to make it finished on the building side is also too high. It generates positive result, but the result is too weak compared with how much money we employ in this business. So going forward, we will look for how we could be able to organize it from Sweden instead of from Norway. So therefore, we will stop the active marketing at the end of this year. The housing starts in Norway. Some comments on that. We can see that it's sustainable when it comes to detached houses and the small houses, as we have seen for several years. But the volatile product, the multi-family houses, it's coming down in 2013. But we believe going forward, it's going to raise. This is based on the information from Prognosesenteret. So from 25,000 as an estimate for 2014, they expect that it will rise again. We know that the demand is approximately 38,000 in Norway, so we are still housing starts below the demand, and that's important to recognize. We also know that the house starts and the demand is the amount of immigrants is very important when we also look at the demand. So it's important for us to follow how the immigration is in Norway going forward. But I believe the housing starts so far and the estimates for the next years going forward, it's definitely below the demand anyhow. And then the outlook, further outlook. In Sweden, definitely the market seems clearly signed to improve. And we will have focus on the product portfolio. We will entering the BRF and focus on increasing there and still doing the same business that we have done for many years, doing that even better. And of course, we will try to increase the amount of our units in Stockholm and other areas where it's a sustainable growth. When it comes to Norway, market, we believe that the market will improve going forward, but we are more, we have the focus on reducing the debt. And at the moment it's at approximately 2.0 billion, and the next period, 12 to 18 months, we will reduce it down to approximately 1.5 billion. So the reduction capital have to come down. But the market situation, also in Norway, are fairly good at the moment. So we believe we have the product. It's in a matter of fact a lot of customers out there. So the future is definitely brighter now than we believe that at the year start of 2014. So then, welcome back in for the second quarter presentation in August. Thank you.